Yeah, so, I'm looking at my website, which I haven't looked at in a while. I guess we've been so busy doing what we do until I've almost forgotten about it. But I keep getting charged for it every month. So, I need to be looking at it. And I was looking at this video. It's a really good video that I did, like inviting people to look at what's there for them. And I'm thinking, remember when we were at the airport? Hi, everybody. We're having we're having one of our what do you call these conversations that we have?
Brainstorming.
I don't know. Sometimes we get into these really great discussions, and so I thought it would be great to have our YouTube audience to kind of peek in on the kind of conversations we'd be having when we're not out having an adventure. But so many people, and I'm not braggadocious or anything like that. I'm kind of humble when it comes to this. I really am not quite clear why it occurs to people like that, but it occurs to everybody. We're going through the airport, through international security. And this sister, when I walk up to her and give her my passport and pull down my mask, she looks at me like, I didn't even know for a minute. I was like, uh-oh, am I going to be able to get through?
Not front of board.
What just happened? And she said, sister, you are outdoing everybody in here. And then she kept looking at my passport and looking at me. And then she said, whatever you're doing, keep on doing it. She said, and then it was like she was astounded. She just shook her head. And I was like, oh, she's not, she does not believe that I'm 72. Right. Yeah. Right? And, so, there's something to be said about that and why I don't, appear to be 72, have like a few little grays. I love these little light areas in my hair. I think they make me look rather regal. Like, the thing you have on the side here, I love that. But also, my body frame and everything. It's like I'm like really kind of healthy looking. Not that other people aren't, but I'm saying we just do stuff all the time. We work out, we bike, we're doing our V-shred and we're yoga, and we don't, and there's no particular, it's not like we're driven to, like, I'm not gonna lose weight or, I may have some little areas that I want to tone up, but it's not like, I'm not obsessed so much, right? So I'm thinking that's part of it. What are you thinking?
I think it's, like you said earlier, mindset is a big part of it. That's
it. I'm glad you mentioned that because, for as long as I can remember, Daryl, I've never really cared about my age. And even when I was working, my employees would say, like I'd say, yeah, well, I'm 55 or I'm 62. And they would say, Dr. Frazier, don't share your age. One of my employees from Costa Rica was really, culturally, the women just didn't do that. And she said, don't share your age. You don't even look like you're that age. And I'm like, okay, but I am that age. And it doesn't matter to me that people know. I mean, I want to be honest with people. And then they can make the choice, whatever it is they're trying to choose about, they choose. But that's never been a real issue. The only time it was an issue is when I turned 50. And for some reason, I thought when I crossed that threshold, when I crossed that, I was gonna fall apart. And nothing happened. I kept looking like Ada, right? So
everybody sees 50 as a big milestone.
I wonder what that's about.
It's a mental thing.
Well, not exactly though, because, okay, now I don't want to be disrespectful, but not everybody takes care of himself in the same way. And I think that we are just enculturated in our society to believe that when you turn a certain age, you're just old, right?
Yeah.
And then you're supposed to look old and dumpy and, you know, like you're supposed to have a certain, and I just never embraced that. It's like, hey, I'm going to be young forever. Even in my senior years, I don't want to be stupid about it. And, you know, like I'm not 20, I don't want to look 20, I don't want to act 20, but I feel vibrant. So why should I, you know, drag around and take on a certain persona because society says that's the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
And it's in our society, because if you go to other countries, man, these Latina women, they are off the chain. They're sexy, you know, they don't worry about as much as we do. They probably have their own worries, but, you know, we just have a lot of stuff, you know, going on in our, within our culture. So I think that one of the things, just like you said, is mindset. You know, not really worried. But you know what the other thing is, Daryl? I know I'm a talker and I'm doing all the talking. He is such a good listener. But I mean, I really start getting, you know, my juices, my mental or like intellectual juices start flowing when we start having these types of conversations. So you know, sometimes I'm just intrigued by what is it that makes one person different from the other. So the other thing I think is like, you know, like when you and I are on the outs, oh yeah, we do have those occasionally. But when we like are upset with each other, or I'm upset with you, or you're, whatever is going on, you know, that impacts the balance of my entire system. I can't, you know, like I might put on a certain, you know, like kind of, persona, you know, like I might not want to appear like weak or whatever. I don't know what that is, but internally, I do not like conflict. I don't want to be an upset. I want to, whatever it is that's plaguing me, I want to resolve it. And the longer I hold on to it, the worse it makes me feel. It impacts my sleep, and then when I don't sleep, I'm grumpy. And, you know, and then when there's a lack of sleep, also my appetite changes. I get, you know, I get junky. I have to, you know, I want to eat foods that are soothing and that. So I eat stuff that doesn't work well for my comfort foods, exactly. And, you know, at the end of the day, I'm all jacked up. Everything is all imbalanced. And once we have that conversation, and I even struggle during the conversation, you know, because I don't know if I'm sort of a perfectionist or something, so I want the conversation to go my way. And if it's, you know, if the clarity is not there immediately from my perspective, then like I'm still bent out of shape. When I relax down and just accept what's so and broaden and expand my thinking, then it makes a huge difference. And I noticed that after we resolve something, I sleep better.
Yeah, you know, stress can be a real health stealer. And so.
Well, how do you know?
Because I get stressed.
You want to talk about that a little bit? Well, I mean, what kind, you know, like for me, you always seem, you know, you always put on this certain kind of face, if you will. And I'm wondering, I think it's a man thing, but still you get stressed, right?
I do. And that face, as you put it, or man thing, is just me attempting to manage my stress, my stress level, you know, because I'm trying not to get I'm trying not to overreact and react too prematurely to whatever we're discussing. So I have time to process and, okay, you know, is this something I you know, should rightly get upset about or worked up about, or is it, so I need to, you know, step back, think about it, assimilate what I'm hearing, and then, you know, respond in a responsible way. And so, you know, I try not to just let things trigger me into a stress mode immediately, but, you know, process that and then decide whether or not that's something I need to, get crazy about.
Well, but the thing is, even if you don't get crazy about it, internally, you're still stressed.
Sure.
It's still bothering you.
Sure.
And so...
But there's levels of stress, and I try not to let that stress level get too high, especially if in reflection, I come to the realization that it's not something that I should respond, overly, stressful about. If that makes sense.
Well, how do you know when your stress level is getting too high? I mean, basically, we're kind of saying something similar, except you are managing it, or you think you're managing it one way, and I'm managing it another. Because, as a woman, I'm very emotional, and I don't, I learned years ago not to internalize things. My father shared with me how detrimental it was to hold things inwards. When I was 15, I suffered from a gastric ulcer, and my nose would just like spontaneously start bleeding. And what we figured out was that it was stress, and I didn't have a release. I would internalize everything, and then I would implode internally. And so, now I don't hold anything in. I just say, I want to get it out. I want to talk about it. And, real quickly, and then we're going to end this because this could go on forever. But, when I was younger, I had an episode in my life where, the spouse the person I was married to then, and I went to therapy. And the therapist, it was interesting. He said, he talked to both of us and analyzed both of our, our characters, our personalities. And he looked at me and he said, now you are the type of person, you're a quick thinker, and you like to get things resolved like now, immediately. You want to work through it. Like if we're having an argument, for example, I want to work through it like right then. He said, but then the other person, the person that I was married to at the time, he said, you are a person that has to think through things. You want to mull it through. You want to kind of think about it and analyze it. And it takes you more time to be able to work through. So you need like a few hours or a day, and then you can come back and sit down and have a conversation. And that created a conflict between us because I didn't get that he needed time to process, and he didn't get that I don't need time. My brain works differently. And so once I got that, then I was able to grant him a little bit more grace and say, okay, I get that you can't talk about this right now, so let's table it for now, but it does need to get resolved like within 24 to 48 hours, right? And that seemed to work a little bit better.
I was, a couple of things, I was in the consulting business for quite a while, and also in management. And I learned that what I'll call knee-jerk reactions often don't serve us very well. And so when I'm talking to someone, rather than, I try in my conversation not to have a knee-jerk reaction to what I'm being told, whether it's favorable or unfavorable, so that I don't add to the problem that's being discussed. Instead take time and assimilate that and consider what's being said, and if necessary, take additional time to think through solutions to whatever being discussed. So especially in my consulting career, you don't want to have knee-jerk reactions to things because you can make a problem worse than it was to begin with.
Yeah,
so that's kind of incorporated into my personality at this point. And so, so I avoid those kinds of reactions to what's being said. So that's kind of, the best I can describe it right now is looking at, trying to see into my blind spots, which is a whole other conversation.
Oh, I know what you're bringing into this conversation. Well, listen, yeah, this is, so, we have a lot of times we have these enlightening conversations, and I think that this is part of the key to, you know, like dispelling some of the stress, and, you know, people, how do you stay youthful? Like, we are committed to not letting things weigh us down for too long. You know, like there may be some upset for a day or two, but at some point we know we have to resolve it, because for me, I can't sleep. I don't eat properly. I don't communicate well. I mean, I get all conflicted internally, and that then can create free radicals for sure, and cause you to age a little bit faster. So I think that that's part, you know, that's part of.
So you actually threw that scientific aspect in there. Free radicals. We'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, well, we will. We'll get into a scientific discussion. But listen, you know, like we'll invite you again to peek into some of these kind of conversations that Daryl and I get into that will allow us to resolve, you know, whatever is going on. But I think part of my, you know, getting back to the original subject is part of my, you know, tap into the fountain of youth, is that it's not just, you know, how we eat, and, you know, it's a whole myriad. It's just a whole, it's spiritual, it's physical, it's physiological, you know, mental. I was going to say, did I miss anything?
So, Ada, I think you covered the important aspects of that conversation.
Great. Well, I guess then that wraps up this discussion, right?
It does. Yeah.
Well, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next video. I think we're going to start doing some interesting, making some interesting discoveries.
Yes.
Like we're going to start visiting some sites of interest very soon. So, hasta luego.
And we'll see you next time. Don't forget to like us and subscribe by hitting the button below.
Bye-bye. Did I say that? Hasta luego? See you next time?
You said hasta luego.
That's right.
Okay.
Blooper!
That's fine.